We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Contribution asks better questions. Who benefits because I'm here? What improves when this works? And how does this create dignity for my clients, my team, my community, and myself rather than dependency?
Welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom, where we share pearls of wisdom shared by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, leaders, and difference makers. Here's your host, Govind Jayaraman.
Hi, I'm Govind Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom, episode 330 and number 20 in our Edge of the Napkin series. So if you've been listening, you would have heard of earlier episodes where we talk about focus, align, act. Focus on what you want, align with where you are relative to the terrain, clean the lens, and make sure that you understand truly where you really are so that you can act 100% all in and release the outcome. That operating system of focus, align, act is the core. So there's a moment, if you've been leading long enough, though, when you realize that execution alone isn't the edge. You can have focus, you can be aligned, and you can take action and still feel like something is leaking. Still feel like the effort is heavier than it should be. Still feel like the momentum requires force instead of gravity, instead of happening naturally. Well, this Edge of the Napkin episode explores what lives above execution. It's not a new tactic, it's not a productivity layer, but a structural quality that quietly determines how focus, align, act actually compounds and turns into a giant magnet. I've been thinking a lot about why some leaders don't have to push as hard to create movement or a movement, and why trust forms faster around certain people at certain seasons in their lives, why effort seems to accumulate energy while others constantly burn it. Well, what I've come to see is that focus, align, act is how they move, but aura is how movement sustains itself. In this episode, I introduce to you a framework that I've been working on for years. It's a magnetic growth aura, not something performative, not something you can manufacture, but something you can build. It rests on 4 structural pillars: confidence, congruence, calm, and contribution. And here's the connection. Focus sharpens direction, but confidence gives you permission to move before proof shows up. Align brings coherence, but congruence is what makes that alignment believable and relatable to others. Act creates momentum and action, but calm determines whether that momentum compounds or burns out. And above it all, contribution answers the deeper question focus, align, act doesn't answer on its own, which is, who does this actually serve? So think of focus, align, act as the operating system, and this framework, this magnetic growth aura, as the architecture that allows it to grow for impact without cracking. It's not scale for scale's sake. It's not a multiplier to the numbers. It's growth for impact. This conversation uses architecture heavily as a metaphor, foundations, pillars, load-bearing structures to explore why presence matters as much as process and why leadership, gravity, is almost always structural, not stylistic, not artistic. If you've ever feel like you're doing the right things, but wanted them to naturally hold more weight, to travel further, to attract more, to create impact that feels cleaner, calmer, and more durable, This episode and conversation is an invitation to look at what you're building and not just what you're doing. Let's go to the edge of the napkin and dive in. Have you ever noticed that there are some people who don't push their way into influence? They don't posture, they don't perform or overperform, and they don't chase attention. And yet, rooms change when they arrive. Conversations slow down, people listen more carefully, decisions feel clearer, and energy gathers instead of scattering. You can't quite name what it is, but you feel it. This isn't charisma in the theatrical sense. It isn't personal branding, and it isn't confidence theater or hustle energy either. It's something quieter, something steadier, something that accumulates. What I want to explore in today's Edge of the Napkin episode is a simple framework for understanding that something, what I'm calling a magnetic growth aura. And not an aura you perform, it's an aura you build. And to make it tangible, we're going to borrow a metaphor older than leadership theory, older than business books, older than modern physiology or psychology, architecture. Because there's no structure that lasts that is built by accident, and no present that endures is either accidental or random. Before we talk about confidence, calm, configuration, or contribution, let's talk about buildings. Not flashy ones, not temporary ones, but structures that last generations. Cathedrals, bridges, civic buildings, homes meant to shelter families for decades or centuries. What architects design, something that must endure, they think in layers. They think about the foundation, what carries the weight. They care about load-building pillars, what distributes that weight. They think about alignment, how forces move cleanly through the structure. They think about purpose, why that building exists at all. No architect starts with decoration, with pictures on the wall. They start with integrity. And the reason this matters is simple. Human presence works the same way. If the internal structures are weak, no amount of surface polish can hold. If the forces aren't aligned, cracks appear. If the purpose is shallow, the structure feels hollow. No matter how impressive it looks, a magnetic growth aura is not a personality trait. It's not charisma, and it's not found in a bottle. It's a structural outcome. Every building starts with a foundation. Invisible, uncelebrated, and absolutely essential. The bigger the building, the deeper you dig before settling in on that foundation. For a magnetic growth aura, the foundation isn't strategy or skill. It's how you orient yourself to reality before results show up. It's belief before evidence. This isn't blind optimism. It's not the manifestation cliches. It's not sitting on a mountaintop and dreaming about it. It's the quiet decision to act from conviction before proof arrives. Every meaningful structure in your life, career, relationship, body of work, required this at the beginning. You believed before you were validated. You committed before you were certain. You acted before the outcome was guaranteed. Architects don't wait for gravity to approve their calculations. They design as if gravity will behave as expected because they understand the principles. Belief before evidence is not pretending. It's trusting principles deeply enough to move without the applause. Without this foundation, you hesitate, you hedge, you leak energy through second guessing. With it, your actions have weight. Your decisions feel clean and simple. Others sense steadiness, even when the results are still forming and coming together. Belief is not the aura. Belief is the ground that it stands on. Here are the 4 pillars, the structure. So once the foundation is poured, architecture rises through pillars, not walls, not declarations, but pillars. They hold weight, they distribute force, and they allow space to exist without collapse. Your magnetic growth aura rests on 4 critical pillars: confidence, congruence, calm, and contribution. Each pillar matters, but none can stand alone. Confidence is the permission to act. Confidence in this framework is not bravado. It's not volume. It's not theater for sure. It's not theater. Confidence is self-truth in motion. It's the internal permission to act without waiting for consensus, to move without rehearsing your worth. Architecturally, confidence is a pillar that says this structure is allowed to exist. Without it, ideas stay trapped. Intentions never exit your head, and contribution remains theoretical at best. With it, action becomes natural and decisions move forward. Others feel invited to follow and not pressured. But here's the tension. Confidence without congruence becomes arrogance. And I've known that feeling. A pillar placed without alignment throws stress into the entire structure. It's actually working against itself. So congruence is the structural integrity. Congruence is alignment across thought, word, action, and spirit. No internal negotiations, no quiet expectations or exceptions. No, I'll say this but live that. In architecture, congruence is structural integrity, the way loads move cleanly from roof to foundation without friction. Pure alignment. In leadership and life, congruence creates credibility. People may not agree with you, but they'll trust you. They'll feel drawn to you. They know where you stand. They know what you mean. They know your yes and no are real. Without congruence, confidence collapses into performance or overperformance, working too hard towards an outcome. Calm becomes avoidance, and contribution feels transactional. But here's the tension. Congruence without calm becomes brittle and not flexible. A rigid structure cracks under stress. Calm. It's the leverage without force. Calm is not passivity. It's not disengagement. It's not detachment. It's not sitting on a rock or sitting like a rock. Calm is the capacity to hold complexity without chaos. It's a container. Architecturally, calm is what allows the structure to sway without breaking, to absorb wind, vibration, pressure, earthquakes even. In human systems, calm does something remarkable. It slows the room down. It expands options. It creates leverage without pushing. When calm is present, conversations deepen, conflicts soften, and decisions improve. But here's the tension again. Calm without contribution becomes sterile. Calm without contribution is just somebody sitting like a lump in the corner of the room. A beautiful structure that no one uses as a monument, not a home, not a place where things are done. Finally, pillar 4, contribution. The reason the building exists. Contribution is the why beneath the work. No exits, no scale for scale's sake, no metrics growing without meaning. Contribution asks better questions. Who benefits because I'm here? What improves when this works? And how does this create dignity for my clients, my team, my community, and myself rather than dependency? Architecturally, contribution is the purpose of the building. A hospital exists to heal. A home exists to shelter. A bridge exists to connect. Without contribution, confidence stays small. Congruence becomes self-referential. It's all about themselves. Calm lacks direction, but here's the final tension. Contribution without confidence stays small. Purpose needs permission to move. Purpose needs to be given away. So when pillars stand alone, we have structural failure. And let's name those failures clearly. Confidence without congruence is arrogance. Congruence without calm is brittleness, as opposed to flexibility. Calm without contribution is sterility. Contribution without confidence is smallness and insignificance. None of these are moral failures. They're structural ones. And most people don't lack values. They lack integration. They lack the practice of putting these together in a structure that works for the long haul. So when the structure holds, your aura emerges. When all four pillars are present, balanced, aligned, and grounded, something profound changes. Not dramatically, not loudly, but unmistakably. People trust you faster. Decisions feel clearer, and energy compounds instead of leaking. You stop managing perception and you start generating gravity. Magnetic fields that pull the right people to you and push the ones that aren't right for you away. Not because you try to attract them, no, but because the structure holds and brings them in. There's a story that this reminds me of, an old town with a broken meeting hall. For years, the leaders argue about renos, paint colors, seating arrangements, sound system. One builder arrives quietly. He doesn't argue. He studies the ground. He tells them, if we repaint this hall, it will still collapse. If we rebuild the structure, people will gather. They resist because foundations are expensive. They're invisible and they're unsexy. But he begins anyway. He pours a new foundation. He places 4 pillars. At first, nothing looks different. People complain. Then winter comes. Storms hit. The winds howl. And every other structure creaks and cracks. But the hall holds. By spring, people stop asking questions. They start bringing chairs. And that's how aura works. This isn't a framework to memorize. This is one to inhabit, to live inside. Ask yourself, where am I confident but misaligned? Where am I aligned but tense? Where am I calm but under-contributing? Where am I contributing without giving myself permission to think about what's the most I can do? Strengthen the pillar, not the performance. Because when the structure holds, you don't need to convince. You don't need to chase. You don't need to perform. You simply stand. And gravity does the rest. A magnetic growth aura is not built in moments. It's built in consistency, in practice, in belief before evidence, alignment without negotiation, calm under pressure, and contribution beyond metrics. This isn't fast work, but it's enduring work. And just like the best architecture, long after the noise fades, people will still feel something solid. They will feel the purpose when they stand near what you've built. Make it a great day.